Hello, my name is Gamer Riven and I am the editor for Randomised Gaming. Now, the reason for the full introduction is I've actually got a very special message today, and this is an issue I actually want to raise in regards to the PS3. And what this issue is the fact that despite the PS3 being region free for PS3 games, obviously, it's still bizarrely region locked for PS1 games. And I don't know why. It's an issue that's been around since the start. Now, to add to this is the fact that not a lot of people know this, but just to show you, when I was doing the Kingsfield video the other day, which is the previous video just before this one, if you check out our YouTube channel, is that, as you saw, I was playing a PS1 game on my PS3, and not only that, I'm playing a PS1 game on my PS3 Slim, because although PS2 backwards compatibility was removed from the PlayStation 3, PS1 compatibility is in all models of the PlayStation 3. And I really want to raise this issue and get it out there. So, if you're watching this video, can I ask, you don't need to like it, you can welcome to subscribe to the channel, but can I ask you push it around? If you watch it and if you like the video, can you pass it on to all your friends, pass it on forums, pass it on to all the official channels? I want to get Sony to hear this message and to actually think about changing it for the update. The PS3 is approaching its twilight now, but they could still change it. I mean, they're still doing hard software updates, or firmware updates I should say, for the PS3. There was one the other week, and they could actually make this little change, and it would actually benefit a lot of gamers, and I can't see it really having any negative impacts, because PS1 games are now all out. You can no longer buy them. Sure, there's a few on PSN, but there isn't a great deal on PSN currently, and that's a problem that Sony need to try and get other developers to address. But basically, if you've got a lot of games aren't available on PSN either, and never will be due to licensing issues. So, but if you have a game that's region locked, so if you have a Japanese copy, it won't work on a European system, and same the US game won't work with a European system, and vice versa for the US and Japanese ones. European and US games won't work on the Japanese one, and Japanese and European games won't work on the US one. And it's just downright bizarre, because the PS3 is region free. Okay, there's two exceptions to that rule. There are two games that of course broke the region free rule. There was Persona 4 Arena, or Persona Arena I should say, and there was a Japanese karaoke game, which no one of course probably owns over here. So without any further ado, I'm just going to show you the backwards compatibility working for the European games, and then I'm going to show you some of what happens when you insert an import game. So to start with, I'm going to pop on Herc's Adventure on the PS1. This is a European release. So I've just inserted it. It's just cranking on the PS1. It's just reading the game disc, and there it pops. I'm clicking it now. Herc's using like the PSN version, pretending it's the retail release. You can't. I've inserted the original disc, I should add. I have a hard copy. It's actually a really good game, Herc's Adventure, and it's probably right now owned by Disney, thanks to them purchasing LucasArts. And it's a game that should actually be re-released on PSN, but Disney unfortunately having it actually. So just to explain a bit about myself, and to add why I want part of this done, is I used to work for Disney Interactive Studios, and I also worked for a PlayStation Home developer called VMe, and I worked on PlayStation Home content. And from my own experiences, I know working with Sony, there were some very good guys there, but a lot of them had come a lot later in the industry, and so didn't have background knowledge of a lot of the games that they had released. I'd been around. In fact, my first computer I ever owned was a ZX Spectrum, so I've been around pretty much from the start, and I've seen a whole flurry of games from the very beginnings to the much more recent times. And there has been a lot of change in the industry, but there's also been a lot of games and that have been very good that have just been forgotten in time, and people don't realise that. I mean, some people are slightly snobbish and say modern games are better. That's not true. Sure, some old games, very old games, when you start going back to the Spectrum era, there are some games that have very old and archaic design mechanics, but there are a lot of them that still play very much like modern games. In fact, many of them play better than modern games. Games back in the early 90s were often a bit more adult than what you see now. So this is Herc's Adventure, as you can see. It's a nice little
Don't worry.
platform hack
I'm
and slash.
Hercules.
And it's actually a semi-sequel to the Zombie franchise. I don't know if many people are aware of this. It's made by the same team, and it's actually a really good game. But sadly, never got much credit. But as you can see there, I'm playing Big Cyclops.
Oh, fuzzy.
Apologies, I'm not going to show you huge amounts of disc format, and that is Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which I'm just going to insert now. Into the whole 50-60 hertz debate. We've already discussed that before, but I will show you a Japanese or US PSN game in a minute, and that will be 60 hertz. So this is the European version. As you can see, it's slightly squished picture-wise because it runs at 50 hertz, but in short, 50 hertz draws less lines for an optimal picture. But because the JIT consoles were originally designed for 60, it meant that the games were running slower and they had borders. Now, Castlevania Symphony of the Night has been released on PSN, so you can download it today if you want. But I'm just showing that if you don't want to download the PSN version, you can choose to use the original game disc if you have one. You may be able to hear me tapping away at the keys there on my joypad. I'm just playing with the loading screen. So, final stage, Bloodlines. This is the very start, and yeah, I won't have the music as you should be able to hear it. I've lowered the background music while I'm speaking. I've also lowered the audio while capturing as well to make sure you can hear my voice recording correctly. But as you can see, it works fine.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world.
And it's a very, very enjoyable game. And if you haven't played it, the hard copies are quite expensive. So that's the European games. But what happens when you insert a US or Japanese game? Well, here goes. Okay, to make a slight point to Sony of Europe, they were often very bad at coordinating and working with their partners during the 90s, and a lot of big title games, because developers didn't want to pay translation costs, were not released in Europe. And in fact, we had probably by far the worst release schedule here in Europe in terms of games. In fact, what I've just inserted is Xenogears on the US version of Xenogears on the PS1. Great game. Never got a European release. So I've inserted it, so we see what happens. This software cannot be started due to region restrictions. So I'm just going to ask why. Why Sony? Why has this not been removed? Why are you still restricting region restrictions on retail discs that are no longer in print? Because there's not one single PS1 game that's officially in print in the retail form. PSN, yes, but not in retail. You have to have legally purchased the discs in the past in order to use them. Why are you restricting the regions? And just to show it's not restricted to just US games, I have just inserted Harmful Park, highbrow gags and pure shooting. This was a Japanese only exclusive. Now it is available on the PSN in Japan, but it's not. The retail copy was only ever released in Japan. Great shooter, should have been released in the West, never was. And what happens when I click on it? This software cannot be started due to region restrictions. it's the same fault again. Now, just to show you that this is a PS3 Slim, I'm going to insert a PS2 disc to show you what happens. So I've actually just inserted a Japanese Thunder Force 6. It doesn't matter whether it's with what region the PS2 disc game is from. It will bring up this unsupported disc thing, and when you click on it, this model of PS3 system is not compatible with PlayStation 2 format software. So basically no PS2 game will run from disc. You can buy them from PSN, but the disc forms will not run on any way, and there's no way to get them to run.